Just in, ladies and gentlemen, Premier Danielle Smith of Alberta releases a statement in response to the Trump tariffs, and we have it here for you, breaking it down. Have a listen. I am disappointed with U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to place tariffs on all Canadian goods. This decision will harm Canadians and Americans alike and strain the important relationship and alliance between our two nations. Alberta will do everything in its power to convince the U.S. President and Congress, as well as the American people, to reverse this mutually destructive policy. We note the reduced 10% tariff for Canadian energy, which is partially a recognition of the advocacy undertaken by our government and industry to the U.S. administration, pointing out the substantial wealth created in the U.S. by American companies and tens of thousands of American workers that upgrade and refine approximately $100 billion of Canadian crude into $300 billion of products sold all over the world by those same U.S. companies. It is also worth noting that if oil and gas exports are excluded, the United States actually sells more to Canada than Canada sells to the U.S. As I've stated to every American policymaker I've met with these past months, Canada buys more from the U.S. than any other country on earth, more than the U.K., France, Germany, Italy, and Vietnam combined. There is therefore no economic justification for tariffs imposed on any Canadian goods. Alberta will continue our diplomatic efforts in the United States to persuade the U.S. president, lawmakers, administration officials, and the American people to lift all tariffs on Canadian goods as soon as possible and to repair our relationship with the United States. I encourage all premiers and federal officials to do the same, especially as the effects of these tariffs begin to take their toll south of the border. Americans need to understand the detrimental consequences of this policy decision. Alberta will also work collaboratively with our federal government and fellow provinces on a proportionate response to the imposed U.S. tariffs through the strategic use of Canadian import tariffs on U.S. goods that are more easily purchased from Canada and non-U.S. suppliers. This will minimize costs to the Canadian consumers while creating maximum impact south of the border. All funds raised from such import tariffs should go directly to benefit Canadians most harmed by the imposed U.S. tariffs. Alberta will, however, continue to strenuously oppose any effort to ban exports to the U.S. or to tax our own people and businesses on goods leaving Canada for the United States. Such tactics would hurt Canadians far more than Americans. We also continue Alberta's call for the appointment of a border czar to coordinate the securing of our border against illegal migrants and drugs moving in both directions, and to achieve our nation's 2% of GDP NATO commitment by 2027. These things should be done for the safety of all Canadians, regardless of our trade dispute with the United States. Despite the disappointment of today's decision, there is also an incredible opportunity before us as a nation. Canada can and must now come together in an unprecedented effort to preserve the livelihoods and futures of our people and expand our political and trade relationships across the globe. We can no longer afford to be so heavily reliant on one primary customer. We must stop limiting our prosperity and inflicting economic wounds on ourselves. Rather, we must unleash the true economic potential of our country, which possesses more wealth and natural resources than any other nation on earth. To this end, Alberta calls on the federal government and our fellow provinces to immediately commence a national effort to fast-track and build oil and gas pipelines to the east and west coasts of Canada, construct multiple LNG terminals on each coast, increase internal refining capacity, unleash the development of critical minerals, lower taxes, reduce red tape, tear down interprovincial trade barriers, and re-empower provinces to develop our unique economies without constant federal interference and imposition of anti-resource development laws. Our province, our nation can overcome the formidable economic challenges ahead, but we can only do so if we start acting like a healthy and functional country that supports every province to export their best resources and products to the world markets, thereby achieving their unique potential. By so doing, Canada can become one of the most prosperous and powerful nations on earth. Alberta stands ready to do our part if this true Team Canada approach is taken. Wow, that was a long one, folks. We've been saying this on this channel for a very long time. That speech sounded like a prime ministerial speech. It didn't sound like a premier. Danielle Smith is a leader. Danielle Smith has Canada's best interests, not just Albertans, you can tell by that speech. But here on the Berta Proud Dad Show, we've been talking about the pipeline bill. In the future, the pipeline bill is going to hurt Canada, and it's going to hurt Canada in the worst way. And it's here, folks. It's here. You know, we were chastised for saying it, and actually back then, I didn't even care that I said it. And we need pipelines. Hands down, pipelines need to come to Canada. And it doesn't matter what special interest group is out there. It doesn't matter who's crying the loudest. Liberals will always be against pipelines as well as the NDP. I don't understand this concept where you bite off the hand that feeds you. It doesn't make sense. While Canadians sit here and bicker back and forth about we should do this and we should do that, other countries are selling their resources at record levels and their countries are getting better. Canada is supposed to be a first world country. Canada is supposed to be a country of opportunity. But the past 9 years of Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh has literally turned us into a country of crime, taxes, and no future. It's time to stand together as Canadians, and I understand there will always be people that will not stand with us. It's time we leave them behind. In business, when there is a weak customer or a weak business that is holding you down, what do? You move forward, you trudge forward together with like-minded individuals who can see a greater good. To the people who propped up Justin Trudeau, who cheered for Justin Trudeau, who cheered for anti-pipeline legislation, you're about to be left in the dust and your voice will be silenced. And maybe not silenced, but not heard, that's for sure. So remember, folks, my name is Berta Proud Dad, and I stand with Alberta. But most importantly, I stand with Canada. Follow the channel for more. Support the channel. Go to bertaprowddad.com, and there'll be more coming on this.